Did your school have a school genius that was frighteningly talented or intelligent? Where are they now? And what are they currently doing? My school girlfriend and I were co-valedictorians. 15 years later we are happily married, living on the East Coast, with stupidly high paying jobs, no kids, and no plan for any. We travel the world, visiting a couple new places every year. I'd say things have turned out remarkably well so far, just waiting for the other shoe to drop someday. Dropped out of college because the pressure became too much. After 5 years with the same company I'm bringing home a whopping 12.22 an hour. Turns out that just because I was smart doesn't mean I was driven. Waited till I was almost 30 to get married and have kids. Once I had a good settled education and career, opened up a solid business on the side that was successful. My number for retirement was 1.2 million. I hit that number by the age of 50 and promptly retired with a pension. Now I travel around and do motorsports all over the country, and sometimes I go around and F with my working friends while they're at work. Got my PhD in physics almost a decade ago, but I've never used it. My wife's job makes her move a lot, so academia wasn't really an option. I've been working in a technical job for the government that pays well and is really easy for me. I don't really mind that I never really did anything with the degree. To be honest, I was never very ambitious. I essentially just put all of my self-worth in other people thinking I'm smart, and telling people you have a PhD in physics is a pretty effective way to give that impression. I do kind of miss doing research, though. Maybe when my wife retired we did. She was one of my best friends. She went through a stoner phase, drinks like a fish, married a stripper, and now works insurance. On the other side of the spectrum, the kid who nearly failed every math class and was literally kicked out of college now makes nearly 100k a year doing web development. Life's a real trip. I went to a small high school, about 70 kids per grade in Kansas. The genius in the grade above me works at the Large Hadron Collider in Europe. He was a really good dude. The best story that stuck out for me is he used to hang out with another guy, Eric, who was pretty hardcore football player and wrestling no one wanted to mess with. One day I heard a teacher say jokingly it's scary they hang out together because he is smart enough to build a bomb and Eric is crazy enough to use it. School genius was an absolute sweetheart. And still is. He received 98% on the IB, International Baccalaureate, and went to Oxford to study law. We are Australian, so that is a big deal. He has since returned and become a corporate lawyer earning huge amounts. Met his now wife at a corporate event, and at the age of 36 has 2 beautiful little girls. His parents were extremely well off, but he also worked his ass off to get to where he is today. He is one of those rich white guys that fortunately doesn't take anything for granted, and knows how lucky he has been, but can also hold his head high because he has worked hard for everything he has. My high school was a gifted school, with the exception of scholarship purposes. We all went to top 30 universities. But still, I didn't meet real genius until I went to college. This guy, 1 year above me, went on College Jeopardy and annihilated everyone. He was tens of thousands of dollars ahead of everyone every round. He won overall. Graduated from our school. Then went to our rival, MIT, and got his PhD. And now he's either principal engineer at Intel. One of my friends knew him personally. He said he was weird as hell. But being weird as hell is kind of normal in Nerd Haven. Is that why Intel is doing so poorly lately? My friend Ian was the smartest kid in school. He was 2 grades above me. Got a perfect score on SAT. And actually wrote the skeleton of a play for the drama club. Me and some other people higher up in the club all sat down with him and our drama teacher and did some editing, like made lines shorter, easier to memorize. He used really big words, added or changed characters so we could use more people in the production. He jokingly applied to Yale just to see what would happen. He actually got in and they really wanted him to go. Just not enough to lower prices enough for someone from Hicksville, MI, to go there. He ended up going to Michigan Tech. I don't remember what his major is. My school have one. A freaking genius that excel at every scientific subjects and entered one of the best university in my country for medical profession. Everyone in my school thought he would become a surgeon or something like that. Well, he did graduate university, but never got his license to be a proper doctor. Apparently during university, he found out that he really likes and is good at boxing. Currently, about 5 years after he graduated, he had become professional athlete in boxing and won a few championship. The dude has one of the best minds I've ever seen. But apparently nothing make him happier than boxing. I was close friends with the smart kid in my high school. He got accustomed to never studying and still doing very well on every test, but this caused him to procrastinate his way out of going to college. He ended up taking a retail job for several years right after high school, and then eventually deciding to go back to school. He is now a very successful attorney. I was definitely the kind of smart kid who hated the fact that I was smart, so I got all A's in all of my AP classes, got 34s on my acts, but played in rock bands and covered myself in tattoos. Now I have my master's in secondary education, worked as a private tutor for years, and I'm $100k in debt from school to be a stay-at-home mom to 3 kids. I love learning and would be happily in school forever, but now I wipe asses and try to figure out how to teach my kids to read, which apparently is way beyond my skill set. I'd much rather teach stoichiometry or calculus than teach my 6-year-old how to add. My valedictorian ex-girlfriend got a 4-year degree, then married a fat, old guy who bought her a Mustang. I feel like if you have to F an old guy, at least get a good one. Hey, as long as she's happy. Took the boring path. Went to university, met a girl who I eventually ended up marrying and have 2 kids with. Got my physics PhD. Decided that academia wasn't my future and I'm now doing software development and data analysis at a fairly relaxed job. Screwed around in college, showing up only for exams if the class didn't take attendance. Graduated with a 3.2. Lived a short time in a country 11 hours away by plane. Managed a restaurant. Worked for an international engineering firm. Now I work for a government agency at a higher position after a year than a lot of people have made in 30. I spend my free time looking at memes, so life is pretty good. Kid who made high grade explosives. He was a little weird. Socially awkward. But a nice guy. At the age where you mess around with firecrackers and match heads. He was the same. Except he was smarter, not wiser, than you or me. So he ordered various chemicals from the internet. And ended up triggering the online companies into informing the police. Armed police kicked his family's door in at 3 AM and stormed the place. Army bomb squad examined the stuff he'd made apparently. It was pretty much stable plastic explosive, but still had to take it out into the fields behind his house and destroy it. He got away with little more than a caution and court-ordered counseling. Fell out of touch with him. But Facebook stalking reveals he went to Cambridge to study physics. He now designs the software certain companies use to trade on the stock market. Married the daughter of a Hong Kong investment banker and splits his time between his apartment in Hong Kong and house in London. I went to middle school with an incredibly intelligent boy. Super smart. Very attractive. Was the adopted son of the wealthiest family in town. Died from a brain tumor when we were 13. That was about 40 years ago and I still wonder how his life would have turned out. My school's genius was painfully awkward and socially inept. But still a pretty nice guy. Perfect score on the ACT and the SATs. I have no idea where he chose to go to school. He owns his own lighting design company along with his wife, who is an interior decorator. They just bought their 3rd vacation home. There was this one kid who was autistic. He could memorize basically anything in seconds. But is practically impossible to communicate with unless you were someone close to him. Don't know how he's doing now. But from what I've heard, he still needs full-time support from his parents. I worked a telecom job with a guy who was quite autistic. If you told him your birthday, he would instantly tell you what day of the week you were born. He would also tell a lot of people what their zip code was as soon as they'd tell him what town they lived in. Before they had a chance. It was beyond extraordinary. The guy was also beyond socially awkward. He would walk up to a full table in the break room and just linger very close to people. He didn't understand proper sales speech. I was sitting near him one day and I hear him say very loudly, "Well, mom, if you'd stop asking questions, the call would be over in about 5 minutes." I fell out of my chair laughing. The guy was a mathematical genius, but they had to let him go because he couldn't keep people on the phone or make sales.